Aita for telling my BF that he has no say on whether or not my son goes to his bio dads. I had my son 7 years ago, when I was 20. His father didn't think he was ready to be a dad because he was a heavy partier, and has never met him, but he has always been on top of child support payments. He wanted to pay, because he didn't want to be a deadbeat. A year and a half ago I met my current boyfriend. He moved in after 8 months. From the very beginning I made it incredibly clear that if my child's father ever wants to meet our son, I was going to allow it. My son deserves to know who his father is. Currently my son has only seen pictures and he asks about his dad often. Now, my boyfriend claimed to be 100% okay with this. He has no kids of his own but stepped in as a step-parent for my boy. He doesn't pay for anything of my son's. Me and his bio father do. And while I don't have contact with my son's father, we still maintain a very civil relationship when we do speak. 2 weeks ago his BIP dad got a hold of me and said he thinks he is ready to meet him. He has since dropped the entire partying lifestyle and seems to be pretty well off considering his upbringing. I responded and we set up a date, which in the end he couldn't meet. He was T-boned and his vehicle was totaled when he was on the way to the meeting spot. He sent me pictures. During all of this my BF didn't say anything, so I had no reason to believe there was an issue. However, last night he told me that he doesn't want his son to meet his real dad. He says, what if he likes him more than me? Or why does he feel like he can just step in after 7 years? He has tried convincing me to tell my son's father that he isn't seeing him. I told him no, that this is my decision and I have been clear about my stance since day one, that I understood his concerns but ultimately, this is for my son's benefit. He is sulking now and saying I'm being insensitive to his feelings, while I personally think it's a selfish request. Aita. Story 2. Aita for separating a child from its mother. I'm really confused right now. Everything is really raw. The baby is safe and sitting on my lap right now. My wife Nicole and I have been together for 8 years. I loved her. She was my son. I was really happy when I learned that I was going to be a dad. I've always wanted to raise children while Nicole didn't really care. She gave birth to a baby girl Kaya about 18 months ago. I love Kaya, she is my little sweetheart. We are very close. I'm a SAHD since I work from home and earn decently. Nicole goes to work. Nicole isn't really into the labor of a kid, she just likes to do the fun stuff. Kaya's always been closer to me than Nicole since I feed her, clean her, all that fun stuff. I found out Nicole has been fucking my cousin. They've been on and off for about 2 years. She stopped when she got pregnant and then recently started her affair again. Kaya isn't biologically mine as in cousin is her father. My cousin is an ass and wants nothing to do with children and never really cared much about babies. Kaya. He knew about Kaya possibly being his and just didn't care. He still refused to be her dad after paternity test. I've been depressed since all this came out and Nicole decided to leave our house. She found an apartment and all and was taking Kaya with her. I didn't protest at first because I was distraught about the paternity test and admit got a bit distant with my little nut. Well, they were moving today and I spent a lot of time with Kaya since she was going away and I didn't know when I was going to see her again. I'm struggling the paternity but I can't change that I raised Kaya. And she calls me Dada. Nicole made a huge show of leaving and was telling Kaya to say bye-bye to the house and to Dada. Kaya was really confused and she didn't want to leave with Nicole because frankly she doesn't go anywhere alone with Nicole much. Well, Kaya made a fuss and kept shouting Dada and reach out to me. I don't know what came over me but I just took her from Nicole's arms and told Nicole I'm keeping her and that she could leave. Nicole tried to get Kaya from me but Kaya wouldn't budge and kept crying. She finally left and said she'd be back later to get her blood. Her mom is calling me now and saying that Kaya is not mine and it's cruel to separate a child from its mother. However, I can't bear to let Kaya go when she's happy at her home. Her mom doesn't even know what Kaya needs to eat. Aita. Update. I've contacted a lawyer and he says I have a strong case. I'm also listed as the father on the birth certificate. Nicole hasn't contacted me again yet and she hasn't come for Kaya. I don't know where she is right now. Story 3. Aita for pursuing full custody because my ex asked me for help. My ex and I have 2 kids, 11 female divided by 8 male together, and I have another with my current husband, 7 female. My ex usually has them every other weekend. Last weekend, my ex called me to come get my daughter at 1 a.m. Apparently she had food poisoning, at least I think. She didn't have a fever or anything and was fine the next day except for a stomachache and had run to the bathroom to throw up, and ended up vomiting and pooing at the same time. I asked him to handle it because it was 1 a.m. and he lives almost an hour away but he insisted he couldn't. I came over and found my daughter sitting on the bathroom floor crying, and there was vomit and poo everywhere because my ex hadn't cleaned it up. He said he was too disgusted and couldn't deal with it. I ended up cleaning the bathroom and wiping my daughter down with some washcloths. I woke my son up and took them both home and we didn't get to bed until almost 4 a.m. The next day I called a lawyer and then informed my ex that I was pursuing full custody because he clearly can't handle having the kids if he can't take care of them when they're sick. He obviously disagrees, and now I also have mutual friends and my dad saying that I don't understand how hard it is to be a single parent because I have my husband to help and it wasn't his fault that he was overwhelmed. Aita for pursuing full custody after this. Story 4. Aita for telling my girlfriend she's being a bitch. Before you jump to saying I am, read this all the way through. Friday, my son 13 had a pretty bad day at school. He almost cried trying to tell me about it. Since she wasn't gonna be there that night, I took him out to dinner and we rented a movie. When we started watching it, he sat in the recliner while I laid down on the couch. About halfway through the movie, he got up and came and laid on me. He used to do this when he was like 7, and I wasn't gonna push him away. We ended up falling asleep. My girlfriend came home the next morning, and after we woke up, she asked to speak with me. She told me she was very uncomfortable when she walked in. She told me it just felt really wrong and that he's way too old to be doing that. I told her that he just had a bad day and he had every right to come to me. She just got mad and told me to never do it again. That's when I told her she was being a bitch and to just drop it. He's my son, I'll do what I want. She ended up leaving and going back to her house. I'm thinking about ending things, but that's the only time she's ever done something like that. Aita.